This is the Shoulda Bit More podcast, presented by Goal Boys Network. Here's your host, Will Hill.
Welcome to the Shoulda Bit More podcast, presented by Goal Boys. Coming up on the show, our buddy Jeff Parles from Sports by the Book will join us, and we will go over what was an incredible weekend of football, an incredible Sunday, at least in the NFL. The Sunday, the Saturday games too. I mean, Kansas City, Houston was fairly competitive. Probably should have been more competitive, and we'll get to that game. And then you got the huge upset on Saturday night. So there was some juice Saturday night, and the game Sunday were about as good as it gets. And man, there is something fun. I mean, like if you live on the East Coast, you snowed in, a little snowstorm. You just, you lock yourself in and you just watch these games, have some food for 6-7 hours and just enjoy all of it. Snow in the early game, some snow on the field in the late game. And there's nothing better. It's just something fun about being snowed in here with these games on. The games were just tremendous on Sunday. You have to be, we'll just kind of go in reverse order here. You have to be sick to your stomach if you're Baltimore. That game lived up to the hype. Comes down to a 2-point conversion. And look, if Andrews catches the ball, and I do feel bad for Andrews, even though I had the Ravens and it cost me a bet, and I'm, cursing him out left and right. He fumbles the ball on the punch out, and then he drops a 2-point conversion. Even if he catches it, Allen still has 90 seconds plus to work with. There's probably a decent chance he gets you into field goal range, and they kick a field goal and win in regulation. But hey, you never know. It's not like they're in 4-down territory in a tie game. If you got them to a 4th down, they would have to punt and you'd have to go to overtime. Ravens were 6-7-1 on that last drive to come back and win the game. It just the additional 2-point conversion hurt. I don't have a problem with, and I'm sure people will be talking about this, Harbaugh going for 2 at the end of the third quarter, down 8, cut it to 2, tried to tie the game. You could say, hey, it's too early to chase points. Look, it's late enough in the game where I want to tie the game. I don't want to be chasing that 1 the entire game. If I kick the extra point, I'm still down 1, but it happened to work out where Buffalo field goal up 2, and now you're up 8. And hey, if you just kick the extra point both times, you're tied. Now, look, Tucker was good today. He's been good lately, but the point after is not automatic either, as we saw in the early game with Elliott, who missed 2 of them and cost Philly a cover based on when you bet it. Et cetera, because that line did close at 7. That was 7 all Sunday, and that landed on 6. So no problem with Harbaugh going for 2. You got Lamar, you got Henry, you've got a lot of weapons for a short yardage situation. You would think that's a team that in short yardage would be very, very hard to stop, just because Lamar's so athletic and Henry's so good. There's just such a 1-2 punch. You can throw it with Lamar, you can keep it. So I had no problem with that. And again, Baltimore, I'll give credit to Buffalo. They hung on, they won the game. But man, when you're -3 in turnovers, you're not going to win many games, especially on the road, especially against a good team like Buffalo. And I can't kill Lamar. He led him down the field. That was an 88-yard drive for a touchdown, effortless drive. He made throws. I know he threw the interception early. I know he had the fumble, and that was a careless, terrible fumble, and basically a 14-point swing because they were going in at least for a field goal, maybe for a touchdown, and then it goes the other way, and it leads to a Buffalo score. I'm pretty sure it led to a Buffalo score on that drive when Miller picks it up, runs the other way, and sets up the short field. After that, he played pretty well. It's just Andrews fumbled. Look, this is going to follow Lamar until he gets to the Super Bowl, until he wins the Super Bowl. I thought he played well enough today, but hey, not well enough. He did have the bad interception early, and he did have the bad fumble. Do I think this is it's almost like Aaron Judge, where hey, these guys are in enough playoffs. Eventually, they're going to break through. They're going to win. They're going to be fine. But until you do it, this reputation of he's not a winner. He can't win the big game. It's going to follow him around fairly or unfairly. And Allen has a chance to break his little rep of not that he has a reputation not being good in big games, but just for all of the decorated accomplishments he's had, never made it to a Super Bowl. We'll see if he can change that next week in Kansas City. We do have the lines up as it is the all NFC East NFC Championship game. Which, man, I still can't believe it. I was thinking about it during the entire Eagles-Rams games. Every time they would say the winner plays Washington, I said, wow, the winner of this game plays Washington. I had to keep reminding myself, keep saying it to myself, the winner of this game plays the Commanders. And it was a weird scenario where, hey, the Washington's the 6. And the winner of this game, Rams could have hosted the NFC title game as the 5. The Eagles hosted as the 2. I'm thinking as a Viking fan. Boy, if only the Vikings could have won, they'd be in a situation where they're a win away from them hosting it themselves. But obviously that was not the case. But we have Philly laying 5.5 to Washington, and we have Kansas City laying 1.5 to the Bills. I've talked about these teasers a lot, and the Ravens one got home with the Chiefs. And I don't know if it was the week before where it was Ravens Bills was the obvious teaser that got home. I know if you threw the Lions in there, you got burned, but hey, you're going to get burned once in a while with these. I will throw out another teaser right away. Ohio State -2.5, and I'll get to that game. And I almost forgot the title game has gone on, man. It's so dragged out with college. You just kind of almost forget it's still going on. Ohio State -2.5 with the Bills +7.5. I would think Bills Chiefs is just a typical Bills Chiefs down to the wire game. I'll have plenty of time to preview, and I'll see what Jeff thinks coming up. Just preliminary thoughts, but to me, if you get the Bills over the 7.5, I think that is a 1-score game. So Ohio State -2.5, Bills +7.5. But back to these games, Baltimore just, they got to be sick. They had every opportunity. And just, hey, when you're -3 in turnovers, you're not going to win the game. I did have a problem, not a problem, but if I were McDermott, and it was kind of lame, Romo and Nance, they wait till the field goal kicker comes on in the field and go, I would kick it. Oh, he's kicking it too. 4th and goal from the 2, about 3 change left. You're up by 5. I would have gone for it to put the game away. I don't want to go up 8 and give them the ball back at their own 25. And I know they got called for the penalty or whatever. And the fact that they needed the 2 saved them. So I guess it worked out. But man, I would have been tempted. I would have been very tempted to either get the 2 yards and end it there or leave them on their own 2-yard line. But regardless, Buffalo moves on and they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl for the first time in a long time and a chance to win the first Super Bowl in franchise history. The game before that, just incredibly crazy from point spread scenario. Just a weird flow of the game where Philly's up 7. They get the ball after all these turnovers. It looked like they were in major trouble after the safety. Hurts looked bad, but they get a fumble. They get another fumble. And you're looking, hey, they're up by 7. They're in good shape. They got the ball back. Maybe just get a few first downs and this game is over. Barkley hits a run to put them up 13. You figure, all right, that's it. That seals it. Extra point is no good. All right, not really thinking of it at the time. Stafford reads them right down the field. Philly just played very soft coverage. And the Rams get in the end zone, cut it to 6. You cover it if you got the +7. There were 6s earlier in the week, so the number mattered there. And then the Rams get the ball back and had a chance to win. And my goodness, if they had ever won that game, that is one of the great comebacks / collapses in NFL history. And I really thought for a second they were going to do it. Eventually, they got a pass rush. I think Carter made a play to get a sack on Stafford, and the Eagles hold on for dear life. And my goodness, what a bad loss that would have been. And it's going to get forgotten because it was the first half and they won anyway. I have no idea what Sirianni was doing before the end of the first half. He called a timeout after an incompletion, and then they're in field goal range. They take a sack to get him out of field goal range. And with 23 seconds left, he has a timeout left on 3rd down. He doesn't call it. He waits for 3 seconds left and then tries to do a Hail Mary. They get sacked again. Why wouldn't you just call that timeout, throw another play, try to get out of bounds, or try to go up and spike and then kick the field goal? That was extremely bizarre. He's a strange coach. He seems like just a complete asshole. I'll just put it bluntly. He's not that bad of a coach, but he'll do these things once in a while. You just say, what the hell is he thinking? What is he doing? Again, he's had a lot of success for a coach. People seem to dislike him, and he brings it on himself. I think just his personality, he just seems unlikable. He wins a lot for a guy that gets beat up as much as he did, so I will grant him that. But I don't know what the hell he was doing. That was just a very strange sequence at the end of the first half. Made absolutely no sense. He completely botched it. But hey, Philly moves on. They get a breakdown where they get Washington. They split the season series, obviously, where they won on Thursday Night Football in Philly. They would have won in Washington about a month ago, late in the regular season. Hurts got hurt, and Washington came back and won. Hurts has not been great. Hurts does not look healthy. It's all Barkley, and then they do a little play action, hope to find somebody open. Hurts has not looked good, so maybe Washington has a chance in that game. I guess with Daniels, you have a chance. I would still lean towards Philly, but again, we'll have plenty of time to get to those games. As far as the Saturday, as we continue going kind of in reverse order, I talked about when the Vikings got eliminated a week ago or so, last week on Monday night, just how demoralizing it is to be a 14-win team, 14-2, then 14-3, and then you're done. That thing goes double for Detroit. My goodness. Can you imagine sitting there in the NFC North that was so good all year? The Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings all one and done, which is really remarkable. Can you imagine sitting there that Sunday night a couple weeks ago? Vikings, Lions, winners the 1 seed, winners the driver's seat to go to the Super Bowl. And you say, you know what? Neither of these teams is going to be around in 2 weeks. Neither of these teams is going to win a playoff game. It would have been hard to believe. And everything I said about the Vikings, how it's hard to climb that mountain again, and just psychologically from a team standpoint, from a player standpoint, it goes extra for the Lions, because couple it with the fact that you're up 17 in the NFC title game last year. All right, this year we're going to get it home. This year we're the team to beat. We're America's team. We got home field throughout the playoffs, and you get absolutely clobbered in your own building in the first round. Oh my goodness, what a horrible loss. And again, just to reemphasize it, 15-2. I think we went 15-2. And we're sitting here in January. You got to wait 7-8 months just to go to training camp. And then training camp, you get 3 weeks, a month of that. You finally get to play your first preseason game. You play 4 preseason games in August where nobody cares. And then you finally get to opening day. And you just think about as a fan how excited your team plays on opening day and you win. All right, we're 1-0. I mean, think about I'm just trying to explain the mountain you have to climb to get back to like where you just were, where, oh man, we're 1-0, we're 3-1, we're 4-1, we're 6-2. It's just it's such a long climb back to where you were to get to 15-2 to be in the division round, just to get back to where you just were, 24 hours ago. Oh my goodness, it's such a long grind to get back there. And I mean, they'll have a good team, they'll be right in the mix next year, but you never know. You're in a good division, you never know if you're gonna what you're going to be next year, or what else is going to happen in the league. Just, boy, it's really tough to climb that mountain again. I think you have to wait 9 months just to play a game, just to start all over again, just to try to be 1-0 and try to, win your division or make the playoffs, and then try to go again and hopefully not get knocked out in the first round. Just, I guess the point I'm trying to make it's not only it's a big hill to climb, it's so hard to win. I mean, think if you're a Ravens fan, how many good teams you've had the last 5-6 years. Think if you're a Lions fan, the last 2 years, the opportunities you've had. Think in past years, the Niners, man, how good have we been for the Niners, and we haven't won a Super Bowl. I mean, all of the 10-point lead and with the ball in one of those Super Bowls in overtime last year, with a million things went against them. Other NFC title games, it's just very, very difficult to win. So a bitter loss for the Lions, an unbelievable win for the Commanders. Daniels is obviously the next star of the league. Happy for Washington, their fans. I know that's it's been a long wait for them to do anything. Washington is incredibly in the NFC title game. Good credit to Chris Massaro. He was on early in the season and talked about Washington as a sleeper division. I think he's got them 40-1 to win the NFC, which he's in a hell of a position to to hedge and make a nice little profit. So good call for Chris. Good good for the Washington fans, and that sets up an interesting NFC East title game between those NFC East teams. And finally, the Chiefs and the Texans. The Texans deserve better. They outgained them. Turnovers. They got a million bad calls. It gets tiring listening to the complaining about the calls, but the calls get tiring too. I mean, the late slide with Mahomes, I don't like the late slide rule. I don't know what you do about it. Mahomes trying to sell the call, getting out of bounds the other time where he flops. I didn't love that, but hey, he's trying to buy a call for his team. I wonder if at some point, I felt like it got to this with the Patriots, where everyone complained about every call they get. And then one year in the Super Bowl against the Eagles, when it finally was like, that was on the tip of everyone's tongue, how they got every call. They kind of got a rough whistle against the Eagles in that Super Bowl where the Eagles won. I wonder if that will ever come back to Kansas City, where if you're a ref, you say, hey, I'm not going to listen to how we favor the Chiefs or whatever. If anything, we're going to give them a tough call. I don't know. Especially in Kansas City's building, you figure, hey, the home team's going to get the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not sure, but it is tough to take. They do get a ridiculous amount of calls. But hey, if you're the Texans, you had your opportunities. You give up an opening kickoff where you look up and they're on the 15-yard line to start the game. Missed extra point, multiple missed extra point, field goals missed. You had opportunities. They played them down from down pretty evenly in terms of scrimmage. They played them about as good as you. I mean, they outgained them. They out everything them except the scoreboard. And boy, what an all-time moment that cover was. The line closed 9.5, up 11 after they blocked the field goal, and you figure, all right, they're going to kick the field goal, they're going to cover. You get an unbelievable break if you're betting the Chiefs. Block the field goal, going to win by 11, chip shot field goal. I can't believe he got a block. And then for some reason, Andy Reid decides to tell the punter to run backwards and take a safety. I get it. The only thing you can lose the game on down 11 is you get a punt that's blocked for a touchdown, then an onside, and then like a field goal, and you go to overtime or whatever. I mean, it was unnecessary. Let's be honest. It was unnecessary, but I get it. You're going to milk the clock. It's still going to be a 2-possession game. You punt and that ends it. I mean, it was clever. It protects you from blocking the punt in that whole scenario, which give credit to him for even thinking about that, but it was completely unnecessary. And of course, it starts the entire crowd of this is rigged, that's rigged, this is rigged. So a lot of hijinks in terms of the spread. That game coming right on or around the number, depending on when you bet it, and a lot of missed extra points in the mix, in the safety thing, and the missed field goal, the blocked field goal, and then the Philly Rams game where the missed extra point late, and there were 2 of them, but the missed extra point late really affected the number. It depends on who you bet, when you bet, that kind of thing, where you bet it. and a lot of point spread drama. But the games were fun. The games were a lot of fun. Just quickly here, college football. I mentioned, almost forgot this game is even going on. There's no rhythm to this college football playoff. Starts the week before Christmas, and maybe it's just because we're new to the format of it. Starts the week before Christmas. That Friday night, Notre Dame, Indiana, which seems like a long time ago now. That Friday night before Christmas, so about a week or so before. And then you have that. Then you play around like New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Then you have the semifinals a week or so, 10 days later on that Thursday night and Friday night. And then 10 days later, you got the Monday night, Ohio State and Texas, Ohio State and Notre Dame. It's just there's no rhyme or rhythm to it. It does feel like the season ended a couple weeks ago. It's almost out of your mind, out of sight, out of mind. That being said, I think Notre Dame has basically no chance in this game. I don't know how they score. I don't think they will score. Notre Dame team total, there's some 17. I saw 19 and a half the other day. There's some 17 and a halves. Basically the same number. 18 is an unusual number to land on. Most teams don't score exactly 18 points. Of course, every half point matters. So get the best number, but I will go Notre Dame team total under, and I like Ohio State. I mentioned them. I like them in a teaser. I'm fine laying the 8.5. I just don't think Notre Dame has the offense. I don't think they match up well. If you can't run the ball, and I don't think they can run the ball in Ohio State, I think this could get ugly. This could get away from them. Ohio State is just explosive on offense, and to me, this is Ohio State got their scare against Texas, and I think they roll. And look, Notre Dame's got a good enough defense where maybe they keep it competitive for a little bit, but I don't know, like let's say 31-10 would be disrespectful, but I don't know, 31-10, 31-13. You get the idea. I think Ohio State wins comfortably, covers comfortably. I think this is just a bad matchup for a Notre Dame team that's going to have trouble scoring. I think Ohio State is 34-14, 31-10, something like that. I don't think it's close. I think Ohio State rolls. So a lot to do, man. A lot of football. Fun weekend. The NFL product is just I know the wild card games weren't great, and the wild card games weren't great last year. But after the wild card games were bad, every game pretty much, I think the last 6 or 7 games in the playoffs were a one-score game, including the Super Bowl, which went to overtime. All of these games are just so good. I mean, the NFL, even, all right, Saturday night's a blowout, Lions, Commanders, but the underdog's winning, so that gives it some juice. Texans, Chiefs was competitive. These games are all just so competitive, so much fun to watch. So it's a good product. It really is. It's just that you rarely get caught with a bad game. The games are just so evenly matched and so exciting. I know the product wasn't great this year. There weren't that many good teams, but boy, you get these games that are down to the wire, especially in this round of the playoffs. Like Bills Ravens just felt like an AFC title game that comes down to a 2-pointer. It comes down to an onside kick. And by the way, that was a very good onside kick. That was a good job by the Buffalo guy to recover it, because that onside kick could have easily, that's exactly what you want to do. A soft little, ground ball where one bad hop and Baltimore jumps on it. If Baltimore jumped on it, you're at midfield, you're a couple first downs away from being field goal range. If Baltimore got that back, they're going to win the game and win the game by a point probably. So good job by Buffalo to recover that. But man, exciting stuff. We'll see if Notre Dame, Ohio State can give us some juice tomorrow. I'm not sure, but coming up next, Jeff Parles. We'll see what he thinks. That is next. This Should Have Been More podcast. All right, we are back. Should Have Been More podcast. You can catch him Sports by the Book. You can catch him on this podcast once a month or so. I think I mentioned as we were doing the Monday show last week, I just got a text from Parles, and he said Commanders outright over the Lions. So we'll give him his flowers on that. But before we get to that game, first of all, Jeff, how are you? I guess I'll start with this. Worst loss, Lions or Ravens?
Oh, Detroit. Even though I picked the Commanders to win outright, legitimately, Will, I text you, I think 4 minutes after Gonzalez doinked in that field goal to make sure someone who I trust and would appreciate the sentiment would get it. So that was awesome for me. But look, Baltimore at least had to go on the road in a coin flip game that they lost because in the end, Lamar Jackson had one absolute look. They got away with the interception, but the fumble was not only to take points off the board for Baltimore, it led to 7 the other way because Buffalo cashed it in and got a touchdown out of it. So you're not going to win many playoff games on the road when you have the biggest turnover of the game go against you and lead to points the other way, especially when they're dead even teams like Baltimore and Buffalo are. Look, it's going to sting, but I'm not going to say it's a disastrous loss for Baltimore. That was a disastrous loss for the Lions because you score 31 points, you average 8 yards per play. Yeah, I know you're a -5 in the turnover battle, but they'd already won a game against the playoff team where they were -5 in the turnover battle this year. So that was the worst loss of the week, and that was the worst loss of the playoffs, and will be the worst loss of the playoffs, even if Washington goes and beats Philadelphia, or even if the nightmare scenario for some of Western New York, Buffalo finally beats Kansas City and then loses to Washington in the Super Bowl, which might be the only scenario I can conjure up that could potentially be worse than the Detroit scenario. But we're talking about the Lions and the Browns and the Cardinals are the 3 loser original franchises in this league. They're the 3 loser franchises. Detroit had just had their best season. They're probably going to lose both coordinators, their head coaching jobs. Goff very well may have peaked last year in the postseason for postseason play. I don't know how you recover from that if you're Detroit. This league is very, very cruel. It's very possible that Detroit had the window last year in the NFC title game, up 17 in the third quarter against the 49ers, and they didn't take advantage of the window. And sometimes the window is that narrow, and that might be the case for Detroit. They're going to still be a good regular season team, but Jared Goff in the playoffs, boy, it's still, you need a lot of things to go right to make the Super Bowl. They almost had it last year, didn't go right last night, and sayonara.
You're not good forever. That's the thing. You're not good forever. And
unless if you're Tom Brady or Patrick
yeah.
Mahomes. So
yep. But they don't have that kind of quarterback. He's a solid quarterback, but he's obviously not even close to that. And you said what I said in the open. Hey, you take together the up 17 in the third and then a 15-2 season where you're the 1 seed and you don't get to the Super Bowl in either year. It's tough. And man, I mentioned this as a Viking fan and now a Lions fan. It's such a long climb back. I mean, you think you got to wait 7-8 months just to get to training camp. Then you play 4 preseason games. And then think about, let's talk about this earlier. Think about how excited your team goes 1-0 or your team's, 3-1 or 4-2. Think of how far you have to get back just to be like a home playoff game in the second round. It's such a climb back psychologically. I know man, I don't know how you do it. It really is just so disheartening.
I will say, this is going to probably sound ridiculous to some, but if you're a Lion fan, you got to hope they're the Matt Ryan era Atlanta Falcons without the 28-3 collapse in the Super Bowl. Because look, Atlanta, I mean, I never thought any of those Atlanta teams were as good as this year's Detroit team, even though Ryan obviously won an MVP in the year they blew Super Bowl 50, Super Bowl 51 against New England. But you're in a scenario where that Falcon team got the 1 seed 3 separate times in that era, and it took to the third crack to get into the Super Bowl. Maybe even the Philadelphia Andy Reid teams that kept getting the 1 seed and only ended up making 1 Super Bowl. But you're right, Will. It's the long climb, and the big problem that I think Detroit has, more so than anything, is the team that KO'd them is just in their infancy.
Yeah.
This Washington team, even if they can't go to Philly on Sunday and win, which I know we'll get to, this Washington team is built because of the quarterback and because of the head coach. Yes, I know it's a defensive guy, and they very well may lose Kingsbury in the next 3 years. But if I'm Cliff, why the hell would I leave if Washington's going to pay me a good amount of money at this point to go take over a job with a mediocre quarterback? I don't know why I would leave if I'm Kingsbury at this point. The Commanders are built, man. The Commanders are built to be really good for a very long time. And look, it doesn't look like the Bears will get the hire right because they're just interviewing too many people. And it's clear they have no idea what the hell they're looking for in regards to a head coach. But if the Bears somehow shock us and get the hire right, then you're dealing with Caleb Williams, who, again, I know he had struggles his rookie year. But I really do think if you flipped Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, that Caleb Williams would look like Jaden Daniels did in Washington. I think he just needs the right coach. In Chicago, you're dealing with that 2 times a year. You're dealing with Green Bay, who's one of the most well-coached teams. I know Love had his horrible playoff game, but that team's always good. It doesn't matter what that talent is. And the Vikings, hey, look, I know it blew up on them, but Kevin O'Connell's won 13 plus games twice now as a head coach. Guy wins a lot of games. So it is a tough division. It is a steep climb for Detroit to get back in the future, man.
Yeah, I was mentioning it, it's just so crazy with this great NFC North. None of them won a game, all one and done, combined for 0 playoff wins. The one solace is, hey, at least the team in your division did not draft Jaden Daniels. At least the Bears didn't get him. I know the coaching, but that boy, that would have that would add insult to injury here if that guy was on the Bears. The Ravens Bills game, because that was a game of the weekend, and the game Sunday were just incredible. To have the snow in Philly just made it. Oh, it was just awesome. Did you have a problem with? I didn't. Did you have a problem with Harbaugh going for 2 late third quarter?
No, tie the game.
No, I agree.
Tie the game. Call better play. Call better play if you're Monken. And I like Todd Monken. I actually think he should get the Raider job if Ben Johnson decides against it. But just run on. I mean, they had no shot of stopping Derrick Henry on that drive. Just give it to him one more time. Tie the game. No problem with it. And look, it should have been irrelevant because if Mark Andrews just catches the ball on the 2-point conversion, who the hell knows what happens? I think Buffalo probably would have gotten range and it would have been on Bass's foot.
I agree.
I don't know. It would have depended on the length because we've seen Bass choke in big spots in the past, but no problem for that. Look, I said in the open, Baltimore lost this game because of that, even more so than the Lamar interception. They lost that game because of the fumble.
Yep.
That Lamar fumble, which there was, I don't even know what the heck he was doing on that play. If he just takes a sack, I mean, yeah, it's a long field goal, but Tucker had really figured himself out by the end of the year. Totally different ball game. But no, he did the right thing. Just call better play for Todd Monken.
If you're McDermott, would you have gone for the touchdown up 5 with about 3 change left to try to win the game?
Will, I was watching the game in a book in the Rampart Sports book with a few friends today. They thought automatic kick the field goal, go up 8. I think I would. If it was at the 1, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely,
it's a no-brainer. You send Josh Allen back out there, and if they stop him, all right, go 99 yards on me. Go 99 yards on me. Go ahead. It was back at the 3. It's closer. I think I would have. It would have been a go, but boy, it's so close at that point. Like it's almost different if you're going up 7 as opposed to 8 in that spot, Will. Because if you're going up 7, then it's a PAT, and I know Tucker's had an off year, but Tucker's not missing. I gotta have a PAT in that spot. We all know that. But going up 8, like not only need a touchdown, they have to run another offensive play in order to tie you. It makes it. It's really, really.
It was tough. It was a close one. Really, I would have gone for it, but it was close.
I can't fault them for kicking, but that's really, really close from the 3 yards.
I thought it was more at the 2. Maybe it was like the 2.5
kick. I mean, it was further back than
okay. Yeah, I thought it was maybe at the 2, but and it was an underrated part of that game. That was a pretty good onside kick. That was in the danger zone. Sometimes these kicks, they just rifle them out of bounds. They have no chance. That was soft enough where, hey, if that takes a bad hop, if he doesn't field that cleanly, Baltimore set up at midfield and they're going to win the game by a point.
Well, and not only that, actually, it's a good weekend for onside kicks because Jake Bates hit a pretty darn good one against Washington too. But no, look, it's boy, that's going to sting for Baltimore for a long time because. Again, I didn't think Baltimore is quite as good as everyone else made them out to be. I thought they were a great regular season offense because that's a really hard offense for a 1 week having to prepare for them, like non-playoff scenario. Their defense was a mess for about 12 weeks and really didn't improve and was significantly better the last 5 weeks of the regular season. But I thought we'll get to Kansas City Buffalo, but even though I probably would have bet Kansas City as a home dog against Baltimore, I would not have loved it because I thought the Ravens matched up really well with Kansas City by the end of the year. Now it's this different matchup. I know we'll get into it, but boy, you got to sting a long time for Baltimore.
How much of a problem did you have with the officiating in Houston, Kansas City?
Not as much as everyone else. I mean, it was the only. Well, first off, I brought up this point in a friend who knows media stuff in a text yesterday. I love Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I think they're the standard of NFL broadcasting at this point. The league's got to be ticked off at them for the way they called that game yesterday, because they just threw gasoline on top of the conspiracy section of of football watchers with the way they called that game yesterday. And look, I thought the first penalty, the first Mahomes related penalty was nonsense. I thought the second one was not good, but I can see how they called it. But I just thought it was a regularly poorly officiated game that people lost their minds because the Chiefs were involved. I mean, look, it didn't end up mattering in Detroit, but that face mask call that was not even remotely close could have ended up flipping that entire game. If it wasn't for Washington's offense and Daniels having the cojones they have, a smaller team melts after that call. Will, like, Detroit went down, made it a 3-point game, and I'm thinking here, watching that game, like, oh my God, that call is going to flip this game, and Detroit's going to end up winning this game by 10 points because of that. Like, that call means that much. And no one reacted. No one reacted when it happened. If that had happened with Kansas City benefiting and that call Detroit benefited on Saturday night, people on Twitter would have been asking for tar and feathering, basically. Will, it was ridiculous at that point.
All right, the two title games. Initial thoughts: Philly laying 5.5, Kansas City 1.5 favorite to Buffalo. I think Philly wins. I just think rookie quarterback on the road. I know he's tremendous. To me, Philly's going to run the ball. Philly's going to get after him. This is going to be the first real defense this kid has seen in the playoffs. I like Philly. I don't have a feel yet for Kansas City, Buffalo. What about you?
I need to see what the status of Jalen Hurts is, Will, because that hit he took, that looked awful. That looked awful. And again, Philly's collapse at the end of last year, there are a lot of factors that went into it. But Jalen Hurts getting hurt and trying to play through it last year played a significant role to that total end of season collapse. And I think we have enough of a sample size to know when Hurts is not 100% and you take away his own mobility, it's not a good product. It's not a good product for Philadelphia. So I need to see what Hurts's status is through the week. How bad is that injury? I mean, Jesus, if it's bad enough, do we see Kenny Pickett, which is amazing that I'm even saying that. But Pickett ran the offense competently in the 2 weeks that he had to play. Again, I'm not saying that if Hurts can play, he's obviously going to play, but that is something to keep in the back of your mind. But this is a totally different animal defense-wise than Washington is going to see. I mean, Tampa's defense might have been the worst defense in the playoffs, and the Lion defense was eviscerated by injuries, obviously, as we know. So this is a whole different ball game. And also, too, it's going to be the worst conditions Washington has played in this postseason as well. You played in very serene Tampa conditions, and you played indoors. So this is a totally different ball game for Washington. I think Philly wins, but I'm not confident in laying the points as well. And then the AFC side, what's the number on the AFC game right now, Will?
KC laying 1.5.
1.5. Yeah, lay it. Until Buffalo proves they can beat Kansas City in a playoff game, I don't know why you would bet on them against Kansas City. Even with this Bill team, at least, again, Josh Allen's a totally different guy. Just the fact that he protects the football. I mean, he didn't even throw for 150 yards against Baltimore. Didn't need it. But the one thing I will tell you, Will, the Bills' defense is not any good. I think that factor is getting missed by a lot of people. But their defense gets crushed by good offenses. Now, I'm not entirely sure how good Kansas City's offense fully is at this point, but Travis Kelce looked like Travis Kelce against Houston, and that might just be enough. So I like Kansas City. I like Philadelphia. We get a redux of 2 years ago again, this time in New Orleans.
And that's what you call before the playoffs. And man, it's just this is developing into just an incredible rivalry. It's Buffalo's got to win one at some point, but it's feeling a little like Manning Brady, where it's just every year. It depends on what round they play, and it's funny. Buffalo always beats them in the regular season, and Kansas City always beats them in the playoffs. So we'll see if that's different this year.
Yeah, if this game was in Buffalo, I might feel a little bit differently, Will. But I do think Arrowhead plays a role in this game as well. Again, look, Buffalo, that 13-second game is going to forever haunt them, man.
Yes.
Till they actually win the Super Bowl with Allen, if they ever do, that 13-second game is going to haunt them forever, because if they just hold, they definitely beat Cincinnati the next week, and they probably beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. Like, they probably win it that year with just how locked in Josh Allen was by the end of that run. So, but we'll see. I just don't. You can't trust Buffalo against Kansas City until they do it in the playoffs. But you're right. Kansas City beat them one time in a regular season.
Yeah, it's amazing.
One time. That's it.
What you give Notre Dame any chance tomorrow on Monday?
Yeah, I give them a chance, but again, Ohio State is just they're just a different animal now, and I just wonder if you're Notre Dame, you watch that tape from that Texas game, the way Texas played Ohio State's offense, where they just said, you know what, Jeremiah Smith, you're not beating us. You're not beating us. And you know what? It got Texas to the 1-yard line down 7 with a chance to tie the game late. I think if I'm Notre Dame, I'm employing a similar strategy of just taking Jeremiah Smith out of the game and making everyone else beat me. As good as Ibuka is, as good as Tate is, as good as the running backs are, it's still Will Howard. We haven't had a Will Howard blow-up game since the Michigan debacle. So, yeah, I think I don't know if Notre Dame has enough offense to win this game. That's really my big concern. That's my big concern. I just don't know. In order to win this game, you probably have to score 24 points, right, Will? If you're Notre Dame, you probably have to score a minimum of 24 points. I just don't know if Riley Leonard is capable of putting 24 on this defense. If they get there, if Notre Dame gets 24, I think they win, Will. But I just don't think they'll get there. I think it's going to be somewhere in the pocket of like 23-14, 23-17. I thought 9 was a better number than 8, personally. So I'm not hedging my Notre Dame futures, though. I had them pre-tournament. I'm not hedging them. I've made them enough on the 3 games in this tournament betting Notre Dame. I'm not hedging. There's no point of laying minus 350 or so on Ohio State and taking a chunk out of that future that I have, Will.
Sasaki goes to the Dodgers. Tanner Scott goes to the Dodgers. I have no problem. Look, it's outrageous. It's overkill. To me, I'm much more annoyed if I'm a Yankee fan. It's Steinbrenner, these other teams, my owner that doesn't spend. They have the money, they're spending it. I think they're trying to win. Now we can get into the whole Ohtani. Should they be allowed to defer contract? That's a whole different story. But the Dodgers are going all out to win. I think more teams should do that. The teams that don't spend are the problem. What's your whole take on all of this?
I have much more of an issue with what you said on the deferment thing. The Ohtani deferment is really the biggest issue I have here, because that's just luxury tax circumvention. That's all it is. So we're in agreement there. The other thing is, like, I'm with you. My big issue with Major League Baseball at this point is you have a minimum of 15 owners, and probably more, that just don't care about winning or don't have the funds to appropriately contend in professional sports in 2025. Both of those problems, and a good chunk of those 15, it's both of them. Both the things are the case. So that's the problem. Like, look, Will, like, let's just look at the National League. Forget the American League for a second. Let's look at the National League. Realistically speaking, we are now assuming health it holds up. Okay, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Braves, the Padres, those 4 teams. Yeah, there's some uncertainty with San Diego's ownership, so that may throw a wrench into this. But those 4 teams are so well set up to make the playoffs every single year for the next decade with the way their rosters are constructed. Then you have the Phillies, who are probably in there for the next 2 or 3 years before their hitters start becoming aged. And then you have the National League Central champion. Then you have Arizona, who's the other team that could potentially be in this mix. And then after that, who the hell else is making the playoffs at this point in the National League? Like, the Nats are probably not getting there because of the division. The Marlins shouldn't even exist anymore. The Pirates have an owner who does not care. The Reds have an owner who does not care. The Cardinals, what has happened with the Cardinals, honestly, is the poster child of what's wrong with baseball at this point. The Cardinals, who were legitimately the modicum of success forever, don't care anymore about winning. They don't care. They care about having the books balanced, which is really disgraceful. The Cubs, all right, at least they traded for Kyle Tucker, but he's probably going to leave after 1 year. And then the Brewers have no money. They just find ways to compete because they have competency in the front office. Colorado is off for as long as Munford owns the team, and the Giants are the Giants. The Giants are basically stuck in that 78 to 84 win purgatory. So, I mean, look, the NL is a 4-horse race with 3 other teams potentially mixed in for the next decade. That's a problem. And then the American League, I mean, Jesus, the Dodgers payroll is almost the size of the American League Central payroll. Like, I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, look at the Tigers. Look at the Tigers. The Tigers had this unbelievable run down the stretch, win a wild card series, push the division champion to 5 with your ace on the mound in game 5, and they've done nothing this offseason. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. It's the salary cap argument's nonsense. It's not going to help anything. The teams with money are going to circumvent the cap anyway, like they do in the NFL, especially the smartly put together teams. So it's all nonsense. The Dodgers should be spending, and why the hell not? You have the money, go for it. Try to win. And Will, you know what the funny part of it is? The Dodgers, who have all these freaking starting pitchers, will probably need someone ridiculous to start a playoff game because all those guys in that rotation are either 5-inning guys for the most part, unknowns, or injury prone, or both, or all 3, honestly, Will.
When you got 15 of them, though, chances are one of them will be healthy at the right time. I mean, maybe you do it in you shifts where some of these guys pitch April to June, and then some other guys June to August. It's just so absurd.
No, I mean, look, they are the best team by a margin. I'm not buying, they're going to be the best team ever. We know it's baseball. Like they're probably, I mean, geez.
How many wins?
105.
Yeah, so there's numbers 103.5. I'd still be tempted to play over. I think they're good for
105. I will say the balanced schedule actually might hurt them a little bit because they don't get 18 games against Colorado where they would go 17-1 this year. Right. Or 18-1 with 19. But no, I mean, look, they will be the 1 seed. They will be the 1 seed. That's fine, but it's baseball. You know how it works. I mean, they've spent all this money for 15 years and have 2 titles, and one of them was a farcical title. So, I mean, it's still baseball. They're not infallible. And the Phillies can have a good 5 games against them in the division series and knock them out.
Sure.
Like it's always in play.
Padres probably should have beaten them this past year, up 2-1.
Padres absolutely should have been. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that the Padres had 6 runs in the first 2 innings against Walker Buehler in that series in game 3, and it didn't score again the rest of the series. Ridiculous.
It absolutely is. Where do these last few of impact free agents go? Alonso, Bregman. Trying to think who else is out there. Santander's out there. Flaherty. Just rapid fire for any kind of sense you get for any of them.
Flaherty to Baltimore. Orioles just need some sort of impact starter. Yeah, he makes sense. He was already there. I know when he was at his worst, but it makes sense. Bregman, I said the whole offseason, I think he's going to Detroit. I still think it makes a lot of sense for everyone involved. They can pay him. The Tigers can say, all right, we spent this offseason. We improved the team. And you know what? He might be enough to actually vault them into being the best team in that division. It is possible. That's really all they need because they have such good young starting pitching and a good bullpen to begin with. Santander, I have no idea. No idea. I mean, that's a guy that I think Baltimore should try to retain, but seems like they have absolutely no interest in him. And then the Alonso thing is bizarre, right? Like, where's the market for a guy who in a down year is still at 35 homers? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I understand why the Mets, like, David Stearns clearly does not value him in the same way that a lot of people value a power hitting first baseman in this era. Which, all right, whatever. Stearns is highly successful. Can't really get on him. But where are the other teams in this? Where are the other? Where were the teams that like traded for first baseman that didn't just wait here? Like, in all honesty, the one that makes the most sense, if you're the Seattle Mariners, like, can you just show a pulse? Can you just show a pulse? Like, you're in the playoffs 2 years ago. You didn't do anything last offseason. You had a shot to make it again, and then he collapsed. Like, Pete Alonso Pete Alonso can hit 40 homers in any ballpark, period. Like, if you're Seattle, he is the perfect type of player they need in a crappy American League to get back in the postseason. They can win the AL West, for goodness sake, this year, Will. Like, the Astros are down. Still don't think the Rangers are going to be all that good this year. And the A's and the Angels are two of the 5 worst teams in baseball. So, someone, maybe the Angels will sign Alonso. That would make sense. Artie Moreno just was like, all right, we spent some money. We did it. We got a big name. We'll win 72 games anyway, regardless. So, I don't know. There's something about this whole situation that still has me thinking that Alonso still ends up with the Mets. Even with everything that's gone on, that the market is so dry that, there's really no one out there for the Mets that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, Jesse Winker's not playing first base. Like that signing didn't mean anything. Like, I still think there's like a 20% chance that Alonso still ends up with the Mets, which, if it does, I still think the best version of the 2025 Mets have Pete Alonso on them.
Jeff, appreciate it, man. We'll be doing more baseball soon because 3 football games left. After that, it's it's college basketball, it's NCAA. For me, it's still too early for NBA. Maybe a little trade deadline. I can't get too much into where Jimmy Butler's going or whatever.
Well, you should probably not even talk about the NBA until there's down to 4 teams at this point.
I know. It's tough. It's tough. And I used to love the NBA. I used to like the regular season a lot more. Just over the years, man. It's just there's not as much juice to it. But Jeff, appreciate the time, man. Sports by the Book. Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, Sports by the Book on YouTube. Afternoon pregame show for national title game goes at 6 Eastern tomorrow. So right there on Sports.
That's Monday. So people listen to Monday. Monday. 6 Eastern Monday, right? Okay.
6 Eastern Monday for that one. Yep.
Jeff, appreciate it, man. Always fun.
Thanks, Will.
All right, rate, review, subscribe. We will be back Wednesday pretty soon here on this podcast. We will be turning the page to other things because I don't know, with 2 weeks to the Super Bowl, I'm not going to do 2 weeks, 6 straight shows of just Super Bowl. It'll get tiring. So I don't know, pretty soon college basketball, NBA, baseball will start to mix things in. If you weren't listening last year, during March Madness, it's pretty much all college basketball. During the NBA playoffs, it's I wouldn't say all NBA playoffs, but it's heavy NBA playoffs. And, NFL draft, baseball comes around. It's not when it's football season, we'll do a lot of football, but we will start to do more baseball, basketball, college basketball, NBA. So we'll turn the page quickly, but we still have a Final Four to get to. We'll spend a lot of time on that this week. Wednesday, we'll be back. See you Wednesday.